Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now. The Los Angeles Dodgers just dropped a bomb that has the baseball world scratching their heads and asking one massive question. What the hell does this mean for Dalton Rushing? The organization that brought us Shohei Ohtani, that threw money around like confetti this offseason, landing Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz, that seemingly has unlimited resources to build the ultimate super team, just made a move that might seem small on the surface, but could have absolutely devastating implications for one of their most promising young players. They're bringing back Ben Rortvedt, a solid veteran backup catcher, and in doing so, they might have just slammed the door shut on Dalton Rushing's immediate future with the ball club. Now, before you click away thinking this is just another roster move, stick with me here, because what's happening in Los Angeles right this very second is a microcosm of everything that's both brilliant and frustrating about how the Dodgers operate. It's a story about potential versus proven commodities, about organizational philosophy clashing with player development, and about whether the win-now mentality that has brought the Dodgers so much success might actually be cannibalizing their own future. This isn't just about two catchers competing for playing time. This is about the fundamental question of how you build a championship organization and whether you're willing to let young players fail on their way to becoming stars. Let's start with the facts, and then we'll dive deep into why this decision has people in the baseball world absolutely buzzing. The Dodgers are bringing back Ben Rortvedt, a journeyman catcher who made quite an impression during his brief stint with the organization, and here's the kicker. Rortvedt has 0 options remaining, 0, zilch, nada. That means if he makes the roster, which seems likely given that they're actively bringing him back, he stays on the 25-man roster. There's no sending him down to AAA Oklahoma City when things get tight. He's either on the big league club or he's getting released, and the Dodgers don't seem like they're planning on releasing him anytime soon. So what does that mean for Dalton Rushing? Well, it means the former top prospect in the Dodgers organization, the guy who was supposed to be the heir apparent behind Will Smith, the player who showed tantalizing offensive potential in his limited major league exposure, might be staring down a future that involves a whole lot of time in Oklahoma City and not nearly enough time in Chavez Ravine. And that, my friends, is where this story gets really, really interesting. All off-season long, the narrative surrounding Dalton Rushing was crystal clear. Talk to Dave Roberts, the Dodgers skipper who's known for his player-friendly approach and his ability to manage big personalities. Talk to Andrew Friedman, the architect of this Dodgers dynasty, the front office genius who's been outsmarting the competition for years. Talk to anybody in the organization with actual decision-making power, and they all said the same thing. They believe there's more in Dalton Rushing's bat. They think the offensive production he showed was just scratching the surface. They believe in his potential to be a legitimate middle-of-the-order threat, the kind of switch-hitting catcher who doesn't come around very often. But here's the problem, and it's a problem that cuts to the very heart of what it means to be a prospect in the Dodgers organization in 2026, saying you believe in someone's potential and actually giving them the runway to realize that potential are two completely different things. The Dodgers have built an empire on being the smartest guys in the room, on making calculated decisions that maximize their World Series odds every single season. But that approach, as brilliant as it is, comes with a cost. And that cost might be measured in the unfulfilled potential of players like Dalton Rushing. Let's talk about Ben Rortvedt for a minute, because the guy deserves credit where credit is due. By all accounts, he's the perfect backup catcher. He's a high-character veteran who knows his role, doesn't complain, works his ass off behind the scenes, and brings legitimate defensive value. His receiving skills are top-notch. His ability to call a game and work with pitchers is exactly what you want from your backup backstop. When he got his opportunity with the Dodgers last season, he clearly made an impression on the coaching staff and front office. You don't bring a guy back if he didn't prove something to you during his time with the club. But here's the thing that nobody can deny. Ben Rortvedt's ceiling as an offensive player, as much as we all respect what he brings to the table defensively, is nowhere close to what Dalton Rushing has the potential to become. We're not comparing apples to apples here. We're comparing a known commodity who can give you solid defense and maybe the occasional clutch hit versus a young player with legitimate offensive upside who could develop into a genuine two-way threat at the catcher position. One is safe, one is exciting, one protects you against the downside, one gives you upside that could change the entire complexion of your lineup. And this is where the frustration comes in for anyone who's watched the Dodgers operate over the past several years. Yes, the organization has an incredible ability to acquire talent through every possible avenue. They can trade for superstars like Kyle Tucker. They can sign the biggest free agents like Shohei Ohtani. They can outbid and outmaneuver just about any team in baseball when they set their sights on a player. Their resources are essentially unlimited. Their front office is among the smartest in the sport, and their track record speaks for itself. But there's a flip side to that coin, and it's one that doesn't get discussed enough. When you're so absolutely hell-bent on winning right now, when every single decision is filtered through the lens of maximizing your championship odds in the current season, you sometimes don't give young players the chance to fail. And failure, as uncomfortable as it is, as much as it drives fans crazy and tests the patience of organizations, is absolutely essential to development at the major league level. Think about what failure means in the context of player development. It means getting exposed to big league pitching and struggling initially. It means going through those inevitable slumps that every single player, even the all-time greats, experience on their journey. It means making mistakes behind the plate, calling the wrong pitch in a crucial situation, struggling to adjust to the speed and sophistication of major league offenses. It means striking out with runners in scoring position and hearing the groans from 50,000 fans at Dodger Stadium. It means reading the brutal takes on social media and in the press about whether you're really good enough to cut it at this level. But it also means learning from those failures. It means making adjustments with the hitting coaches. It means studying video until your eyes hurt, trying to figure out what the opposing pitchers are doing to you and how you can counter it. It means developing the mental toughness that separates big league regulars from organizational depth. It means earning the respect of your teammates by battling through the tough times instead of getting shipped out the moment things get difficult. It means becoming a better player, specifically because you were given the opportunity to work through your struggles at the highest level. And here's the harsh reality. Dalton Rushing doesn't have the luxury to fail with this version of the Los Angeles Dodgers. The margin for error is razor thin. The expectations are sky high. The organizational mandate is to win championships, not to provide developmental opportunities for young players who might need some seasoning. If Rushing struggles in his first extended opportunity, there's going to be immense pressure to find someone who can produce immediately, because that's what the Dodgers do. They solve problems with resources and talent acquisition, not with patience and development time. Look at some of the greatest players in baseball history, and you'll see that they all went through periods of struggle, especially early in their careers. You want a perfect example? Let's talk about Shohei Ohtani, who's now the face of the Dodgers franchise and arguably the best player on planet Earth. Go back and watch his first spring training with the Angels. The guy struggled. There were real questions about whether he could hit major league pitching. There were concerns about his approach at the plate. If the Angels had operated with a win-now-at-all-costs mentality and no patience for development, who knows if Ohtani would have gotten the runway he needed to become the transcendent superstar he is today. And that's just talking about his hitting. When Ohtani came back from Tommy John surgery and returned to the mound, there were definitely some rough patches. There were outings where he got lit up. There were moments where you wondered if the magic was still there. But he was given the opportunity to work through it, to build his arm strength back up, to rediscover his command and his devastating arsenal of pitches. Even the greatest players in the game, the once-in-a-generation talents, they go through slumps. They need time to adjust. They need the organizational support to work through the inevitable rough patches. So the number one question that needs to be asked today, the question that should be dominating the conversation among Dodgers fans and baseball analysts everywhere, is this: what does the future hold for Dalton Rushing with the Los Angeles Dodgers? Is he going to get a legitimate opportunity to establish himself as Will Smith's long-term backup and eventual successor? Is he going to see enough playing time to actually develop his offensive game at the major league level? Or is he going to be stuck in organizational limbo, too good for AAA, but not getting enough at-bats in the big leagues to truly progress? And there's a secondary question here that's almost as important, especially if you're thinking about Rushing as a potential trade chip. If the Dodgers are seriously considering shopping Dalton Rushing in a trade, does bringing back Ben Rortvedt actually help or hurt his value on the trade market? Think about it from another team's perspective. If you're a general manager evaluating whether to acquire Rushing, what message does it send when the Dodgers are choosing to bring back a veteran backup instead of giving their former top prospect more opportunities? To me, that doesn't increase Rushing's trade value one bit. If anything, it makes his value look diminished. It suggests that the organization that has seen him up close every single day, that has all the internal data and scouting reports and developmental assessments, isn't quite ready to fully commit to him as a major league regular. That's not exactly the kind of signal you want to send if you're trying to maximize return in a trade. Now, to be fair to the Dodgers front office, there's another way to look at this situation, and it's worth considering their perspective. Even if Rushing was the backup catcher to Will Smith on the Major League roster, how many games is he really going to catch? Will Smith is an all-star caliber player who's going to get the lion's share of playing time behind the plate. The backup catcher might get 2, maybe 3 games per week. That's not a ton of at-bats. That's not the kind of regular playing time that allows a young hitter to really get into a groove and develop at the plate. And there's another complicating factor. Freddie Freeman, the future Hall of Famer who plays first base, wants to be out there every single day. He's not going to be taking games off left and right to give Rushing at-bats at first base. And Rushing certainly isn't going to be playing the outfield, so that's not an avenue for additional playing time. The DH spot is going to be occupied by a rotating cast of stars who need days off from the field. So maybe, just maybe, the Dodgers' plan is actually more thoughtful than it appears at first glance. Maybe the strategy is to start Rushing in AAA Oklahoma City, where he can get 4 or 5 at-bats per game, where he can catch almost every day, where he can continue to refine his offensive approach without the intense pressure and scrutiny that comes with performing in Los Angeles. And then, when the opportunity knocks, when there's an injury or a need arises, you call him up and give him that chance to prove himself in the show. There's logic to that approach. It's not crazy. It prioritizes getting Rushing the developmental at-bats he needs rather than having him sit on the bench for 5 days out of 7. But it also comes with risk. It means he's not with the big league club, not learning from the veteran players, not experiencing the daily routine and preparation that comes with being a major league player. It means he might feel like he's been demoted or pushed aside, which could impact his confidence and development in different ways. The Dodgers organization clearly got tremendous feedback on Ben Rortvedt, and not just about his offense or his ability to handle the bat. The feedback was about his catching ability, his receiving skills, his game-calling acumen. This is a guy who knows how to work with pitchers. He understands pitch sequencing. He can handle a staff and make pitches better through his work behind the plate. Those are incredibly valuable skills, especially for a team with championship aspirations that's going to lean heavily on its pitching staff in October. And let's be honest about another trend with the Dodgers. They're increasingly leaning into veterans. They're targeting guys who might be on the older side compared to some of the other options available on the market, but who bring intangibles that don't always show up in the stat sheet. They value high character. They want players who are going to go about their business professionally, who understand their role, who won't cause clubhouse drama or demand playing time they haven't earned. Ben Rortvedt fits that profile perfectly. He's a professional's professional. He's not going to complain about sitting on the bench. He's not going to pout when he's not in the lineup. He's going to prepare like a starter, support his teammates, work his tail off in practice, and be ready when his number is called. For an organization that prides itself on its culture and its no-drama approach to building a roster, those characteristics matter enormously. But here's where we need to have a real conversation about organizational philosophy and priorities. The Dodgers are clearly all in on winning championships right now. They're not interested in rebuilding years or development seasons where they sacrifice wins for the sake of giving young players experience. Their window is open, they have the resources to capitalize on it, and they're going to do everything in their power to maximize their championship odds. That's a perfectly valid approach, and it's one that has brought them tremendous success, but it does mean that young players like Dalton Rushing are going to face an uphill battle for playing time and opportunities. It means that when push comes to shove, the organization is going to choose the safer veteran option over the high upside prospect who needs development time. It means that patience isn't really in the organizational DNA right now, at least not when it comes to roster construction at the major league level. And that brings us back to the fundamental question. Is this the right move for the Dodgers? Are they potentially sacrificing long-term upside for short-term stability? Are they undervaluing the potential impact that a developed Dalton Rushing could have on their lineup for years to come? The answer, frustratingly, is that we won't really know for several years. If Rushing develops into the offensive force that some scouts believe he can be, and he's doing it in another uniform because the Dodgers traded him or lost patience with his development, then this decision is going to look pretty questionable in hindsight. But if Rortvedt provides steady, reliable backup catching, and the Dodgers continue winning championships with their current roster construction approach, then nobody's going to care about what might have been with Dalton Rushing. What makes this situation even more complex is the broader context of how catching prospects develop in the modern game. The catcher position is unique in baseball. It requires such a specialized skill set, both offensively and defensively, and the defensive responsibilities are so demanding that it often takes longer for catchers to develop than players at other positions. A 23 or 24-year-old catcher is still relatively young in developmental terms. Many catchers don't hit their prime until their late 20s. So when the Dodgers are making decisions about Rushing's immediate future, they need to be thinking not just about what he can do in 2026, but what he might become by 2028 or 2029. They need to be weighing the value of immediate production from a veteran like thwart against the potential long-term value of a developed Dalton Rushing, who could be an above-average offensive catcher for the next decade. And that's where the organizational philosophy question becomes so critical. Are the Dodgers thinking about building sustained success over the next 10 years, or are they focused primarily on the next 2 or 3 seasons while they have Shohei Ohtani in his prime, and while this particular core of veteran players is still producing at a high level? Both approaches have merit, but they lead to very different roster construction decisions. The reality is that the Dodgers have put themselves in a position where they almost have to win championships to justify their approach. They've invested so heavily in the present, they've mortgaged so much future flexibility, they've passed on developing so many young players in favor of veteran acquisitions that anything short of multiple World Series titles is going to feel like underachievement. The expectations are that high. The resources committed are that significant. For Dalton Rushing personally, this has to be an incredibly frustrating situation. Imagine being a top prospect in one of baseball's premier organizations. You've worked your entire life to get to this point. You've put in countless hours in the cage, behind the plate, studying film, working on your game. You've climbed through the minor league system, performing well at every level. You finally get your shot in the big leagues, and you show flashes of the offensive potential that made you a highly regarded prospect in the first place. And then the organization brings in a veteran backup who, respectfully, doesn't have anywhere close to your offensive ceiling, and that move potentially pushes you back to AAA. That's got to sting. That's got to make you question your standing with the organization and wonder whether you're really part of their long-term plans. It's the kind of situation that can either motivate a young player to work even harder and prove the doubters wrong, or it can be deflating and impact confidence in ways that hurt development. The communication from the organization is going to be absolutely critical here. Dave Roberts, Andrew Friedman, and the rest of the Dodgers leadership need to be crystal clear with Rushing about what the plan is, what the expectations are, and what he needs to do to earn a more significant role. If he feels like he's being jerked around or that the organization isn't being straight with him, that's when things can turn sour quickly. What's also worth considering is how this decision fits into the broader pattern of the Dodgers' handling of young position players over the past several years. Think about some of the prospects who have come through the system with high expectations but never quite got the extended opportunity to establish themselves at the major league level. Some of those players went elsewhere and had productive careers. Some never quite panned out. But the pattern suggests that unless you're an absolute slam-dunk can't-miss prospect, you might not get a long leash with this version of the Dodgers. That's not necessarily a criticism, it's just an observation about organizational priorities and how they impact player development. The Dodgers have decided that their competitive advantage comes from maximizing every single roster spot, from having the best possible player at every position at all times, even if that means cycling through veterans on short-term deals rather than developing young players who might take a year or two to reach their potential. From a pure win maximization standpoint, you can't really argue with the results. The Dodgers have been one of the most successful franchises in baseball over the past decade. They've won multiple division titles, pennants, and a World Series. They're perennial contenders, and they're going to be in the mix again this year. Their approach clearly works in terms of producing wins and playoff appearances, but there's something to be said for the satisfaction of developing your own players, of watching a prospect grow into a star right before your eyes, of having guys come through your system and become cornerstones of your franchise. There's a connection that fans feel to homegrown players that's different from the excitement of acquiring a big-name free agent or trade acquisition. And there's organizational pride in building from within rather than always relying on external acquisitions.